The strange encounter. The old cargo ship floated in silence, its metal walls groaning as if the vessel was alive. Inside the dark corridors, a human named Daniel moved carefully. He was only a mechanic, not a soldier. Yet tonight the ship felt like a battlefield. Sparks jumped from broken wires, shadows twisted along the walls, and the hum of failing engines echoed like whispers of ghosts. Daniel carried a small toolkit in one hand and a flashlight in the other. He had been called to fix a collapsed power conduit, but something felt wrong. Every step made the floor creak under his boots. The air was heavy, filled with dust and the faint smell of burning circuits. He turned a corner, and that was when he saw her. At first, Daniel thought his eyes were playing tricks on him. A figure stood there, small and delicate, no taller than his chest. She was not human. Her skin had a soft glow, pale like moonlight. Her silver hair fell down her back, shining even in the dim light. Her eyes, large and bright, watched him with a strange mix of fear and boldness. She looked fragile, almost like a child, yet there was something older in her gaze. Before Daniel could speak, the tiny alien woman raised her hand. Her voice was soft but carried strange authority. "Wait, don't move yet. Let me arch my back first," she said. Daniel froze. The words made no sense, but the seriousness in her tone stopped him. She stepped closer, her movements careful, graceful, like she was balancing on invisible strings. Slowly, she bent backward, arching her spine in a way no human could. The glowing lines on her skin shimmered faintly, as if some hidden energy moved through her body. Daniel's heartbeat quickened. Who are you?" he asked, his voice low. The alien woman did not answer immediately. Instead, she tilted her head as though listening to something far away. Then she whispered, "If you had moved, the wires above you would have fallen. Sparks, fire. You would be burned." Daniel looked up, and indeed a set of broken power cables hung loose, just above his head. One wrong step and they would have dropped on him. A chill ran through him. "Thanks," he muttered, still unsure whether to trust her. The alien smiled faintly, but there was sadness in her eyes. She pressed her small hands against the wall, and to his shock, the heavy metal cover shifted. She had strength that did not match her size. Within seconds, she pulled aside the panel and pointed inside. "Broken core," she said simply. Her voice was accented, her English strange, but Daniel understood. She was showing him the problem. He crouched, shining his light into the panel. She was right, the main power relay was fried. "How do you know this?" he asked. Her reply was quick, almost defensive. "I worked here before. I know the ship. I know where it hurts." Her words made him pause. She had said worked here, not traveled here, not visited. Did that mean she was part of the crew once? Or maybe a prisoner? Before Daniel could question further, a sound rippled through the corridor. Heavy steps, the metallic thud of boots against the deck. Someone or something was approaching. The alien woman stiffened, her eyes widening with fear. "No time," she whispered sharply. "They come." Daniel gripped his toolkit tighter. "Who's coming?" She looked at him with urgency. "Hunters, guards, they search for me." In that instant, everything changed. Daniel realized this woman was not just a random passenger or worker. She was running from someone dangerous enough to make her tremble. The footsteps grew louder, echoing down the hall. Shadows stretched across the walls, closer and closer. The alien grabbed his arm with surprising force. "Follow me," she hissed. Despite her tiny frame, her grip was strong as steel. Daniel hesitated. He had no reason to trust her, but something in her eyes pulled him in. A mix of fear and determination. He felt that if he left her, she would die. They hurried into the maintenance tunnel, crawling through narrow spaces. Daniel's shoulders scraped against pipes while she moved swiftly, as if she belonged in these passages. At one point, she twisted her body with that same strange arch, slipping through a gap no bigger than his arm. She looked back at him, waiting, urging him on. The noise behind them grew closer. Muffled voices spoke in an alien tongue, harsh and commanding. Daniel's chest tightened. Whoever those hunters were, they were getting nearer. At last, the tunnel opened into a wider chamber, a small storage bay filled with crates. The alien woman pressed her back against the wall, breathing hard, her glowing skin dimming. Daniel whispered, "Who are you, really? Why are they after you?" She lowered her gaze, her silver hair falling over her face. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then softly she replied, "I was a servant, but I ran away. They want me back, but I will not return." Not alive. Daniel felt a cold shiver run down his spine. Before he could respond, the sound of boots entered the storage bay. Shadows loomed over the crates. The hunters had found them. The tiny alien woman gripped his arm again, her voice urgent but steady. Stay close. If we are caught, we die. And in that tense moment, Daniel realized this encounter was only the beginning. The hidden strength. The storage bay was cold and silent, except for the distant echo of boots. Daniel held his breath, hiding behind a tall crate. The tiny alien woman pressed herself against the wall, her silver hair glowing faintly in the dim light. Her large eyes darted to the shadows, listening for danger. For a moment, time seemed to freeze. Then the heavy steps moved past the bay, fading down another corridor. The hunters had not searched here yet. Daniel finally whispered, "That was too close." The alien woman looked at him, her face pale but calm. "Not safe yet. They will return." Daniel tightened his grip on the toolkit. His instinct told him to leave. He was just a mechanic, this was not his fight. But something about the small alien stopped him. She looked fragile, like glass, but she carried herself like someone who had survived much worse. She moved suddenly, pushing aside a crate almost as tall as she was. Daniel's eyes widened. The crate was heavy, filled with spare metal parts. Yet she shifted it with ease, her glowing skin brightening for a second as if her body channeled energy. "How did you do that?" Daniel asked, shocked. The alien tilted her head, her expression unreadable. "My kind, we are small, but inside we hold strength. Hidden strength." She placed her palm flat against the crate, her back arching slightly. The glowing lines on her skin pulsed once, then dimmed again. Daniel had seen strong soldiers before, but this was different. Her power didn't look like muscles. It looked like something deeper, something unnatural. Before he could ask, a sound of static buzzed through the bay's old speakers. A deep alien voice barked an order in a language Daniel couldn't understand. The woman flinched. "They call more hunters," she said softly. Her voice shook for the first time. Daniel frowned. "If they want you so badly, you must be important. Who are you really?" She hesitated, her hands trembling. Finally, she whispered, "I was born in the service of a house. A royal house. They used me as a tool. But I ran. I could not serve anymore." Daniel's mind raced. "Royalty? A runaway servant?" He stared at her, confused and curious. Before he could speak again, the bay doors clanged. A pair of alien guards entered, carrying long rifles that glowed with red energy. "Stay down," Daniel hissed, ducking behind another crate. But the alien woman did not hide. She stood still, her body tense, her spine slowly arching again. The glowing lines across her skin lit up brighter than before, spreading like fire under her pale surface. The guards saw her and shouted. One raised his rifle, too slow. The tiny woman leapt forward, moving with speed Daniel's eyes barely followed. She twisted her body in mid-air, landing against the first guard's chest. With one swift push, she sent him flying into the metal wall with a crash. Daniel's jaw dropped. How could someone so small throw a soldier twice her size? The second guard aimed his rifle, but she arched her back again, her glow pulsing, and with a sharp motion she grabbed the rifle and snapped it in half. The guard stumbled back in fear. "Run," she commanded, her voice sharp like a blade. The guard didn't think twice. He dropped his broken weapon and fled. Daniel stepped out from behind the crate, still stunned. You're not just a servant. You're something else." She turned to him, her glow fading slowly. Her breathing was heavy, her small frame shaking as if her strength came at a price. "I am what they fear," she whispered. "That is why they chase me. My hidden strength is not meant to be free." Daniel moved closer, concern showing in his eyes. "You saved me, but using that power, it hurts you, doesn't it?" The woman did not answer. Instead, she leaned against the crate, her knees weak. "Every time I use it, I lose a little more of myself." Daniel felt a strange pull inside his chest. He wanted to leave, to escape this madness. But he couldn't, not now. Not after seeing her fight. Not after seeing the pain in her eyes. Before he could say more, the sound of alarms screamed through the ship. Red lights flashed across the bay. A deep voice announced in broken English, "Attention! Runaway located. Do not let the human leave with her." Daniel froze. The hunters not only knew she was here, they knew about him too. The alien woman grabbed his wrist, her small hand surprisingly firm. "We must go. They will bring more." Stronger ones, Daniel nodded, his decision made. Then I'm not leaving you. Together they ran from the storage bay into the narrow halls again. The ship shook as if alive, lights flickering, alarms echoing. Daniel looked down at the glowing figure beside him, her determination sharp despite her fragile size. He realized something he had never expected. This strange, tiny alien woman might be his only chance of survival, and perhaps, he thought, he might be hers. The chase in the dark. The ship trembled as if it sensed the hunt. Red warning lights flashed across the walls, painting everything in shades of blood. Daniel and the tiny alien woman ran through the narrow corridors, their shadows stretching long and thin. Behind them, the sound of boots thundered, getting louder with every second. Daniel's lungs burned, his chest heaving. He was only a mechanic. He was not trained to run for his life like this. But the alien woman beside him moved with unnatural speed, her bare feet silent against the cold floor. Her silver hair streamed behind her like a ribbon of light. "They are close," she whispered, her voice steady, though her body glowed faintly with strain. Daniel glanced over his shoulder. Shapes appeared at the far end of the corridor, tall soldiers with glowing rifles. Their alien voices echoed, sharp commands bouncing off the metal walls. "Where do we go?" Daniel asked, panic rising. The woman pointed ahead. "Tunnels. Only chance." They reached a small hatch in the wall. Daniel tried pulling it open, but it was stuck. He cursed under his breath. The soldier's boots clanged closer. Without a word, the woman stepped forward. She pressed her small hands against the metal, her back arching, the glowing lines on her skin pulsing brighter. With a sharp cry, she pulled. The hatch tore open with a screech, metal bending like paper. "Go," she ordered, shoving Daniel inside first. Daniel crawled into the tunnel, his shoulders scraping the pipes. The air was thick, filled with the smell of rust and oil. The alien woman followed, moving like a serpent through the narrow space. Behind them, the hatch slammed shut just as the soldiers reached the corridor. Inside the tunnel, the world was darker. Only Daniel's small flashlight lit the way, casting weak beams ahead. The walls pressed in tightly, making him feel trapped. "Where does this lead?" he asked, his voice hushed. "Old engine room," she replied. "Many paths." "We can hide there." Daniel's mind spun. Who was this strange woman who knew every corner of the ship better than him, even though he was the mechanic? He wanted to ask more, but the tunnel shook suddenly. A loud bang echoed. Someone was trying to break in from behind. "They cut the hatch," she whispered. Her glowing eyes met his. "We must move faster." They crawled deeper, twisting through tight turns. At one point, Daniel got stuck. His broad shoulders caught between pipes. Panic clawed at his chest. "Don't stop," the alien urged. She pressed her small hands against his back and pushed with surprising strength. He popped free, falling forward with a grunt. Daniel gave a shaky laugh. "You're stronger than you look." She didn't smile. "Strength means nothing if they catch us." As they moved, her glow dimmed. Daniel noticed the trembling in her arms, the way her breathing grew heavier. Her power came at a cost. Finally, the tunnel opened into a dark chamber. Broken machines lay scattered, silent giants of metal. It was the old engine room, forgotten and abandoned. Shadows stretched across the walls, and the only sound was the hum of distant power lines. Daniel crawled out and helped her down. She stumbled slightly, and he caught her by the arm. For a moment, their eyes met. Hers were full of something he couldn't name. Fear, pain, but also trust. He broke the silence. "Why are you really running? What did you escape from?" She hesitated, her hands clutching her chest. Finally, she whispered, "I was raised to serve the House of Chiron. Their secrets are in my blood. They cannot let me live free. If I am captured, they will break me, use me again." Daniel's stomach turned. He didn't know who or what the House of Chiron was, but he knew cruelty when he heard it. Before he could answer, the chamber filled with new sounds. The clatter of metal, the echo of boots. The hunters had followed them. "Hide," Daniel whispered urgently. He pulled her behind a collapsed engine block, pressing himself against the cold metal. Shadows entered the room. 3 guards this time, scanning the chamber with glowing rifles. Their alien voices hissed like snakes. The woman gripped Daniel's hand tightly. Her body shook, the glow in her skin faint and weak. "I cannot fight again." "Too soon," she breathed. Daniel looked around desperately. His eyes fell on the tools scattered on the floor, rusty wrenches, broken rods. He grabbed one, his mechanic's instincts kicking in. He wasn't a soldier, but he knew machines. And sometimes machines could be turned into weapons. As the guards spread out, Daniel whispered, "Stay low. Let me handle this." The alien woman's eyes widened. "You, alone?" Daniel gave a small grin, though fear knotted his gut. Humans have tricks too. He picked up a long metal pipe and hurled it across the chamber. It clanged loudly, echoing through the room. The guards turned instantly, their glowing rifles aiming at the sound. Daniel seized the moment. He dashed behind another machine, keeping low, his heart racing. The alien woman watched, her glowing eyes wide with shock. For the first time, she saw the truth. This human was not just running with her, he was willing to fight for her. The guards shouted and moved toward the noise. Daniel's mind raced with a plan, simple but dangerous. He spotted a broken power coil sparking nearby. If he could lure the guards closer and overload it. He gripped the wrench tighter. The chase wasn't over. It had only begun. The desperate plan, the broken engine room, buzzed with faint electricity. Sparks leapt from a cracked coil, filling the chamber with a sharp smell of burnt metal. Daniel crouched behind an old engine block, gripping a heavy wrench in his hand. His heart pounded so loud he feared the alien guards could hear it. Beside him, the tiny alien woman leaned against the wall, her glowing lines dim, her breath uneven. She had used too much strength already. Now her body trembled as if it could collapse any moment. "More are coming," she whispered, her voice weak but steady. "We cannot hide for long." Daniel peered over the broken machine. 3 guards scanned the chamber with glowing rifles. Their helmets reflected the red warning lights, their voices sharp in a language he couldn't understand. He looked back at her. "You said they're bringing more?" She nodded. "They will not stop. They want me alive." Her eyes dropped for a second. Alive, but broken. Daniel felt anger spark in his chest. He didn't know this woman's full story, but he had seen enough. She was small, fragile-looking, yet brave enough to fight. He couldn't let them drag her back into chains. He thought quickly. His mechanic's eyes scanned the room, not for weapons, but for weaknesses. Then he saw it. The unstable power coil stacked near the far wall. Old, cracked, humming with energy. If they overloaded, the blast would shake the entire chamber. A dangerous idea formed in his mind. "We can't fight them head-on," he whispered. "But we can use the coils. Overload them, boom, it'll scare them off. Maybe even buy us time to escape." The alien woman's glowing eyes widened. "That explosion could kill us too." Daniel gave a thin smile. "Yeah, but if we stay, we die anyway. At least this way we have a chance." For a long moment she said nothing. Then slowly she nodded. "I will help." They moved quietly, staying low behind the machines. Daniel found an old control panel half buried under wires. Its screen flickered weakly. He yanked open the casing, exposing the circuits. His hands moved fast, twisting wires, bypassing old safeties. Sweat dripped down his face, but his mind was clear. The alien woman crouched beside him, her hands glowing faintly. She arched her back slightly, channeling her strange energy to stabilize the current while he worked. Her glow flickered, reflecting on the broken screens. "You're good at this," she murmured. Daniel smirked despite the danger. "Fixing broken things is my job." The guards moved closer. One of them spotted movement and shouted. A red beam of energy shot across the chamber, striking the wall inches above Daniel's head. Sparks rained down. "Hurry," she urged, gripping the wires tighter. Daniel gritted his teeth. "Almost there." He twisted the last wire. The coils across the room began to glow brighter, humming with unstable power. "Now," he shouted. The alien woman arched her back fully, her glow surging, and pressed both hands against the circuit. The coils screamed, electricity bursting like wild lightning. A blinding flash filled the chamber. The coils erupted with a deafening blast, shaking the floor. The guards were thrown backward, their rifles clattering across the metal floor. Smoke poured through the room, filling every corner with choking black haze. Daniel coughed, pulling his shirt over his mouth. He reached for the woman, helping her up. She stumbled, her glow dimming to almost nothing. "Can you move?" he asked urgently. Her voice was faint. "Yes, but not far." He lifted her into his arms without hesitation. She was light, lighter than any human child, but her body trembled with exhaustion. Through the smoke, Daniel spotted a service hatch at the far wall, half hidden behind collapsed pipes. He ran toward it, boots slipping on the shaking floor. Behind him, the groans of the injured guards echoed, but more voices shouted in the distance. Reinforcements were coming. He kicked the hatch open and slipped inside, the woman clinging weakly to his chest. The tunnel beyond was narrow, dark, and smelled of rust. But it was away from the hunters. For now, Daniel set her down gently. Her silver hair stuck to her damp face, her glowing eyes half closed. "You didn't have to carry me," she whispered. He gave a short laugh, trying to hide his fear. "Well, you don't exactly weigh much. And besides, I wasn't going to leave you there." For the first time, a small smile touched her lips. It was tired, fragile, but real. Daniel leaned against the tunnel wall, catching his breath. His ears still rang from the blast. He thought about what had just happened, about how a simple mechanic had nearly blown himself up to protect a stranger. But when he looked at her, he knew why. "You need to tell me the truth," he said quietly. "Who are you really? Why are they so desperate to take you back?" Her smile faded. She lowered her gaze, her voice soft as a whisper. "Because my blood carries what they fear. A secret, a power they cannot control." She looked up, her glowing eyes locking onto his. "And now, you are part of it too." Daniel's stomach tightened. He didn't know what kind of storm he had stepped into, but he knew one thing for certain: there was no turning back. The tunnel shook again as alarms blared louder. The hunters were close. Daniel clenched his jaw, pulling his wrench back into his hand. "Then we better keep moving. Because if they catch us, we're finished." And with that, the desperate plan bought them only a few moments of escape. The real fight was still ahead. The secret revealed. The tunnel was narrow, its walls damp with leaking coolant, the air heavy with the taste of metal. Daniel pushed forward, his flashlight beam shaking with each step. The tiny alien woman clung to his arm, her steps uneven, her glow faint as a dying candle. Behind them, alarms wailed louder, echoing through the pipes. The hunters were not giving up. They never would. Daniel slowed, letting her catch her breath. "You can't keep this up," he said softly. "You're barely standing." She shook her head, silver hair brushing against her pale cheeks. "I will not stop. If they take me, it is the end." Her words struck him harder than any weapon. The end of what, her life? Or something far greater? They stumbled into a wider chamber, a junction where multiple tunnels crossed. Here, broken lights flickered, casting eerie shadows that danced across the curved metal walls. Daniel guided her to sit on a low pipe, crouching in front of her. "You need to tell me," he said firmly, his voice low but sharp. "I've seen what you can do. You're not just some runaway servant. You said your blood carries something they fear. What does that mean?" The alien woman lowered her gaze. For a long time she was silent. Daniel thought she might refuse. But then she slowly lifted her head, her glowing eyes meeting his. "My name is Lysera," she whispered. "I was born in the house of Charon, not as a noble but as their experiment." Daniel frowned. "Experiment?" She nodded. "They search for power. In our kind, they found a way. They changed us, changed me. My blood carries energy that can bend machines, bend even flesh. It is not natural. It is why I can move heavy things, why I glow. It is why they cannot let me go." Daniel's chest tightened. He remembered the way she bent metal like paper, the way her back arched and her glow surged. It wasn't just strength, it was something deeper, dangerous. "They made you into a weapon," he said quietly. Her lips trembled. "Yes, a weapon that obeys, a servant that cannot refuse. But I refused. I ran." She clenched her small fists, the glowing lines on her skin pulsing faintly. "And now, they will burn every corridor, tear apart every wall until they have me again." Daniel swallowed hard. He was just a mechanic. What did he know about empires and experiments? But looking at her trembling frame, he felt something stronger than fear. He felt anger, for what they had done to her, for the chains they still tried to wrap around her. "You're not a weapon to me," he said firmly. "You're a person, and you're not going back to them." For the first time, Lysera's eyes softened. She studied him, her lips parting as if she wanted to argue, but instead she whispered, "Why would you risk so much? You owe me nothing." Daniel gave a short laugh, though his chest felt heavy. "Maybe I don't, but sometimes humans just do the right thing, even when it makes no sense." Before Lysera could reply, a loud crash echoed through the tunnel. "Metal tore," voices shouted. The hunters had found their trail. Daniel stood quickly, wrench in hand. "No time, can you walk?" Lysera nodded weakly, pulling herself up. But as she moved, her knees buckled. Daniel caught her, his arms steady around her tiny frame. Her glow flickered brighter, then dimmed again. She looked up at him, her voice almost a plea. "If they catch me, Daniel, they will cut me open. They will take back what they made. Promise me. Promise you will not let them." Daniel stared at her, his throat tight. He didn't want to imagine what she meant, but he saw the desperation in her glowing eyes, the kind of desperation that came from years of living as someone else's tool. "I promise," he said finally, his voice low but unshaking. The hunter's footsteps thundered closer. Daniel scanned the junction. One path led deeper into the ship. Another angled upward toward the docking bays. He grabbed Lysara's hand. "This way," he said, pulling her toward the upward tunnel. They climbed, the sound of pursuit echoing behind them. The air grew hotter, the walls shaking as if the ship itself was fighting against them. At last, they reached a grated platform overlooking a vast docking bay. Through the thick glass, Daniel saw the stars, and his heart sank. A massive alien warship loomed outside, its dark hull covered in cruel symbols. It pulsed with power, blotting out the starlight. Smaller ships swarmed around it like predators circling prey. Lysara's face went pale. "They have brought the flagship." Daniel clenched his fists. If they had sent a warship, it meant one thing: she wasn't just important, she was vital. He turned to her. "Then your secret?" "It's bigger than I thought." She looked at him, her eyes full of fear and something else, trust. "Now you know. My secret is the reason they will never stop. My secret is the reason you should leave me." But Daniel shook his head firmly. "Not a chance. If your secret is enough to scare them this much, then maybe it's enough to save both of us." The alarms wailed louder, guards pouring into the bay below. The shadow of the warship stretched across the stars, and Daniel realized the fight for survival was no longer just about them. Something much bigger was at stake. The choice of trust, the docking bay was alive with chaos. Red lights spun overhead. Alarms screamed through the walls, and the shadow of the massive alien warship outside filled the viewports like a hungry predator. Daniel and Lysara crouched on the grated platform, looking down at the guards flooding the bay below. Their rifles glowed, their voices barked orders, and their eyes scanned every shadow. Daniel's grip tightened on his wrench. He wasn't a soldier, but he knew enough. If they were caught here, it was over. Beside him, Lysara's glow flickered weakly. She looked exhausted, her breath shallow, yet her eyes still carried that same fire. She leaned close, whispering, "They know we are here. They will offer you safety if you give me to them. They always offer." Daniel turned to her, his jaw set. "And if I refuse?" Her glowing eyes darkened. "Then they will kill you. Slowly. They do not forgive those who protect what is theirs." For a moment, silence hung between them, broken only by the clatter of boots below. Daniel's heart raced. He could almost hear the choice forming in his head, his life or hers. Then a booming voice echoed through the bay. It spoke in broken English, loud and cold. "Human, we see you. The one beside you is property of House Karen. Hand her over and you will be spared." The word struck like a blade. The guards had stopped searching. They stood still now, their glowing rifles raised, waiting for his answer. Daniel felt Lysara's small hand slip into his. Her grip trembled, but her voice was steady when she whispered, "Do it. Give me to them. You do not belong in this fight." He looked at her, truly looked at her, the silver hair clinging to her damp skin, the glow fading from her trembling frame, the sadness in her eyes. She was ready to give herself up. But Daniel shook his head. "No, you ran for a reason. You deserve to stay free." Her lips parted as if she couldn't believe what he had said. Daniel stood tall, stepping into view. He raised his wrench, ridiculous against an army of rifles, yet his voice carried through the bay with iron in it. "She's not your property. She's not your weapon. If you want her, you'll have to go through me." The guards shifted, murmurs rippling through them. Even the voice over the speakers seemed to hesitate before replying. "Foolish human. You protect her, you share her fate. There will be no mercy." Daniel tightened his grip. "Then so be it." He turned back to Lysara, kneeling beside her. "I don't know how this ends," he admitted. "But I know I'm not giving you up." Tears glimmered in her glowing eyes. She reached out, touching his chest lightly with trembling fingers. "Why? Why risk everything for me?" He gave a faint smile. "Because someone has to, and right now, that someone's me." Her breath caught, and for the first time, a true smile touched her lips, small but bright. "Then I will stand with you," she whispered. Daniel helped her to her feet, steadying her fragile body. The guards below raised their rifles ready to fire. Then Lysara did something unexpected. She closed her eyes, arching her back slowly. The glowing lines across her skin pulsed brighter, stronger than before, though her body trembled with the effort. Daniel's eyes widened. "Lysara, don't, you're too weak," she shook her head. "If this is the end, then they will see what I am." Her glow surged, filling the chamber with a blinding light. The guards shielded their eyes, shouting in panic. The machines around them buzzed, sparks dancing across the floor. Her energy flowed into the walls, the pipes, the very structure of the bay. Daniel felt the air vibrate. For a moment he feared the ship itself would tear apart. Then just as suddenly her glow dimmed. Lysara collapsed into his arms, her strength drained. The guards below stared in shock. Some stepped back, murmuring in fear. Even through their helmets, Daniel could see hesitation. One of them shouted, "She should not be able to do this. She was broken." The others wavered, their rifles lowering slightly. Daniel lifted Lysara, cradling her against his chest. Her voice was faint, barely a whisper. "They will fear me now, fear us, but only if you choose to fight." Daniel looked down at her fragile frame, then back at the army below. His mind screamed at him to surrender, to live. But his heart was already decided. He raised his head, his voice steady as steel. "I choose her. And if that means war, then bring it." The bay erupted in chaos. Some guards advanced, others hesitated. The warship outside hummed with power, ready to strike. And in that moment, Daniel understood. Trust was no longer a choice. It was a bond sealed by fire and fear. A bond that might change everything. The humans gamble. The docking bay trembled like a living beast. Red sirens spun above, painting everything in sharp flashes of light. Below the grated platform, alien guards barked orders, their glowing rifles trained upward. Outside the viewport, the massive warship hung like a shadow blotting out the stars, its cannons humming with deadly energy. Daniel stood tall, wrench in hand, Lysara weak in his arms. His heart hammered, yet his eyes burned with determination. He was no soldier, no hero, just a mechanic who had chosen not to look away. The alien commander's voice boomed through the bay, harsh and cold. "Human, this is your final chance. Surrender her and you may live. Refuse and both of you will die." Lysara stirred weakly against Daniel's chest, her silver hair sticking to her damp skin. "Daniel, they are too many," she whispered. Her glow was faint, her body trembling with exhaustion. "You cannot win this." Daniel's jaw tightened. "Maybe I can't, but I can outthink them." He scanned the bay. His mechanic's eyes didn't see soldiers, he saw machines, engines, power lines. Weak points. The warship outside was too strong, but the bay itself, that was different. He spotted the docking clamps holding the smaller ships in place, massive steel arms powered by exposed conduits. If he could overload them, the ships would break free, turning into chaos, buying them a chance. It was a gamble. But it was all they had. Daniel laid Lysara gently against the wall. "Stay here. No matter what happens, don't give up." She caught his hand, her glowing eyes full of fear. "If you fall, I will not survive without you." He squeezed her hand once firmly. "Then I'll make sure I don't fall." Daniel darted across the platform as gunfire erupted. Energy bolts sliced the air, exploding against the walls. He dove behind a crate, sparks raining down. His heart pounded, but his hands moved fast, pulling tools from his belt. He pried open a panel in the floor, exposing thick power cables. The energy running through them buzzed under his fingertips. He stripped the wires, sparks dancing wildly. Below, guards shouted, realizing what he was doing. "Stop him!" One bellowed, shots fired upward, shaking the platform. Daniel cursed, working faster. He twisted the cables together, rerouting the flow toward the docking clamps. His vision blurred from smoke and flashing lights. Come on," he muttered through gritted teeth. Lysara, still leaning weakly, raised her trembling hands. Her back arched slightly, her glow flickering. She pressed her palms to the wall, sending a faint surge of her strange energy into the circuits. The power lines responded, humming louder. The docking clamps below began to shake. Metal groaned, sparks bursting from the conduits. The commander's voice roared, furious now. "Stop them! Kill the human!" Guards charged up the stairs toward the platform. Daniel ripped the final wire free, his hands burning. Now, he shouted. The clamps exploded. One by one, the smaller ships broke free, crashing into each other like uncontrolled beasts. Flames erupted, smoke filling the bay. The guards screamed, thrown aside by the chaos. The warship outside tilted, its massive cannons pausing as debris flew into space. For a moment, the enemy faltered. Daniel grabbed Lysara, pulling her to her feet. Move! Together they staggered across the platform, smoke choking the air. An emergency door began to close automatically, triggered by the blast. Daniel pushed her through, then dove after her, rolling onto the floor as the door sealed behind them with a heavy clang. Silence fell, broken only by their gasping breaths. The corridor ahead was dark, leading toward the escape pods. Daniel leaned against the wall, clutching his side where a shot had grazed him. Pain burned, but he forced himself to stand. Lysara pressed her small hands against his wound, her glow faint but soothing. "You are hurt," she whispered. He gave a weak grin. "Just a scratch. I've had worse fixing engines." Her glowing eyes softened, shimmering with emotion. "You risked everything. For me." Daniel looked at her, truly seeing her. Not as a weapon, not as a secret experiment, but as someone who deserved freedom. "I told you before," he said softly. "You're not their property. You're not their tool. You're Lysara, and I won't let them take you." Her lips trembled, then curved into a small, radiant smile. She leaned against him, her head resting on his shoulder. "For the first time," she whispered, "with you, I feel strong." Outside, the warship roared, engines shaking the void. But inside that narrow corridor, something greater than fear grew between them. Trust. A bond forged in fire, chaos, and choice. Daniel tightened his grip on the wrench, his other arm steady around her. The fight wasn't over, not by a long shot. But together they had survived the impossible gamble. And as they limped toward the escape pods, Daniel thought one thing only. This was just the beginning.